My name is Megha Sharma and I'm here in Geneva participating in the 151st Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union. I'm being joined by Angela Thokozile Didiza, who is the Speaker of the National Assembly of South Africa. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining me and speaking to me on NewsX World. So please tell me about your experience at the IPU Assembly this year.
I can say it was very exciting. Exciting because it is addressing issues that a number of us in different regions of the world are grappling with. Issues of humanitarian assistance where there is persistent war. And what a number of people have been raising in their statement is the fact that we do have the instruments that provides for assistance in terms of those who are affected, particularly international humanitarian law that prescribes that even in instances where there is war or forms of disasters, there's still a need to ensure that those who are affected do get assistance in terms of humanitarian aid.
And you just told me that you have previously attended the IPU in Uzbekistan as well. How has this experience been?
Well, it was, I would say, the experience of IPU assemblies would not necessarily be different in terms of issues that are being deliberated upon or in the structure of the conference itself. But obviously, being in a different region, you do get to experience the country, its people, the culture, and that gives, a particular flavor into the assembly, which actually, again, enable us to know one another better and the conditions from which we come from.
What are the key issues that were raised by you today and in the last 5 days that the assembly was going on? Issues that are directly related to South Africa and on a larger scale as well, where we are witnessing conflicts across the globe.
I must say that one of the issues that South Africa was able to raise in a number of these forums, one of them relates to gender equality and gender parity. One of the issues that we feel strongly about, because for us, the issue of gender equality is a human rights issue. And this year, being the 30th year following the Beijing Platform of Action, which was a United Nations conference in Beijing looking at issues of women's empowerment and how we can increase participation of women in parliament and all other decision-making bodies. It was very exciting that, again, this year, the IPU had chosen the issue of gender equality as a theme for the year. So in part, we were reflecting how far we have gone. So it was quite exciting. Secondly, the issue of human rights and humanitarian law was another issue that as South Africa, we felt strongly about. And again, coming out of our situation in the past where we gained support and solidarity, where the United Nations actually declared apartheid as a heresy, it was really important for us to be able to raise the flag and the need for, human rights across the globe and what we can do as the Interparliamentary Union to strengthen democracy, to promote human rights, to ensure that humanitarian law is respected in as far as those countries that are under strife and conflict, but that citizens can still access humanitarian aid.
I also want to touch upon a subject that is being talked about and discussed and deliberated all across the globe. It is emerging technologies and artificial intelligence in particular. What has the government of South Africa done in terms of, not just deliberating upon the issue, but also framing policies and regulations to ensure the judicious use of artificial intelligence in the lives, in governance, in other arenas, and ensure that the risks of artificial intelligence are mitigated?
Yes, with respect to digital, economies that includes digital technology and artificial intelligence, we in South Africa have looked at both the positives of what these new technologies bring in societal development, in our economy, in the growth of education, and other areas such as trade. But obviously, we've also seen the dangers of use of artificial intelligence and other technologies that sometimes promote, hate and, sometimes crime. And that is why we've been able to develop legislation to look at how we can address issues of cybercrime in our country and judicious use of digital technologies, including AI.
All right. Talking about the next G20 that is taking place in South Africa, if you could shed light into the key agenda of the South African government, where leaders of governments from all across the globe are going to be convening and talking about the important subjects. Of course, like I said, there are conflicts and crises that we are witnessing all across the globe. What is going to be the focal point of G20 in South Africa?
The focal point of G20 in South Africa would deal with issues of solidarity and inclusivity. We'll deal with issues of climate change and issues of sustainability, because all of those issues, in our view, as much as are important, as much as G20 is framed as a platform for economic engagement, our view is that within that economical framework, it is important to deal with issues of solidarity, issues of inclusivity, particularly when you look at the issues of a debt that a number of developing countries have been experiencing, but also issues of human rights, as you say. How are we as countries dealing with some of those issues in a manner that those that are vulnerable can actually be assisted and supported? But also issues of sustainable development and climate change are issues that, in our view, cannot, in this day and age, avoid any economic planning, because obviously we need to factor those into our economic and social development as countries to say, how are we going to mitigate, through our planning, some of these issues such that it doesn't affect our countries negatively, or when it does, how do we quickly rebuild as countries having experienced some of these natural disasters?
I also want to touch upon the very important bloc that has global relevance now, BRICS. How does it bring South-South development? And we see powerful countries, important countries like South Africa, India, Brazil, China, participants in it. What is the potential of BRICS in the coming future?
The potential of BRICS in the future is great, in my view. It brings in a number of diverse countries from the global south. It enables them to look at how they can leverage on their strengths in terms of the economy, in terms of development, and sharing experiences on issues of governance and democracy. So there is quite major prospects, in my view. The fact that BRICS even started the BRICS Development Bank shows in everybody that it's not just about a talk shop, about looking at the policy framework, but it also drills down to practicalities on what can be done by these different countries together.
I also want to understand from you the potential of relationship between India and South Africa. Our ties go back decades old, and of course there is a strong Indian community that has resided and worked in South Africa for a really long time.
Certainly.
And what does the future hold for India and South Africa, whether it is about diplomacy, people-to-people connect, culture, and more importantly, trade now in wake of the tariff war that we have seen waging across the globe?
I must say that relationships between South Africa and India, as you say, go a long way, not just in terms of human rights, which all of us can go back to joint struggles and lessons learned from each other's struggles between Mahatma Gandhi as well as the African National Congress, the largest through National Indian Congress. But it has actually evolved over the years where integration of Indian communities in South Africa is very strong, and its influence, both in terms of culture and cuisine, I think it goes a long way. But besides that, at a government to government level, the relationship between India and South Africa has been one of positive competition on trade, but also collaboration. And in terms of education, sharing and building capacities on each other on a particular area. For instance, there's a lot of work in the ICT space that South Africa has benefited from India's journey in the growth of its ICTs. And in terms of trade, there has been very strong bilateral trade between India and South Africa, which I think it would actually grow.
And finally, before I let you go, ma'am, South Africa is a beautiful country. And if there was one particular place that you would like to recommend to people who would love to visit your country?
Wow. Every region, I would say, is very unique and very beautiful. I come from KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, where there's the largest Indian community outside India in South Africa, and I would dare say in Africa, which boasts with beautiful seas of the Indian Ocean, but also the landscape, the sugar cane fields that I'm sure India is used to, but also the mountains of the Drankensberg. You speak of Eastern Cape, good Indian Ocean, long seashore, but also very beautiful landscape. And one of those areas in terms of agricultural development still holds a lot of potential even today in the Western Cape, where the two seas meets from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic. Yeah. And also, the different landscape of the Western Cape and the winery that's where it comes from. But you've got the desert as well in the Northern Cape, which borders with Namibia. On one hand, good seashores and inland with the wild and the minerals. So each and every part of South Africa has got something unique that anyone who comes from India can be able to find exciting. But what is more exciting is our infrastructure, because you can land in Joburg, fly to Cape Town, fly to Limpopo, fly to Mpumalanga, fly to Cape Town, Eastern Cape or Northern Cape, but you can also drive if you want to see the scenery. Our national roads are one of the best.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you, Speaker, and thank you very much for speaking to me on NewsX World.
Thank you very much.